Hillary one right here. So I recently saw the movie Wonder, which of course is an adaptation of a novel by the same name. Now, I have yet to read the novel, but after seeing the movie, I definitely want to read it. I didn't know, well, actually, I thought I knew what to expect from this movie. Because, I mean, based on, like, the trailers I saw, like, back when, because I believe it came out sometime last year. I remember when I first saw the trailer for it, I don't know, to me, it didn't look that great. I mean, I figured it was something that was geared more towards, kids, like children, like middle school age kind of thing, and which it is, but it's actually got much more of a universal message. And so, yeah, I mean, I was pretty blown away by this movie. It was just, I didn't expect to care so much about the characters. I also like that in the movie, like, I don't know if it's the same in the book. I wouldn't be surprised if it isn't the same in the book, but I like, in this movie, they show you the same story from different perspectives. Like, it's not just the main character, of course, it's a kid named Augie Pullman. But they don't just show it from his perspective, also from his sisters, his parents, one of his friends, and, so yeah, it made for a very interesting style of storytelling, which oftentimes that kind of style, like, I mean, I've come across it before in like a handful of other books, or maybe like one or two other movies, but sometimes it doesn't always work out. But for me, at least, I felt like in this movie, it definitely did, definitely added a lot more depth to the story. You know, oftentimes, like, usually when you see a movie and then you only see it from one perspective, so you only get one understanding of what's going on. But this way, yeah, I mean, it just adds a lot more depth to the story. Of course, I mean, pretty much what it's about is this kid named Augie Pullman. When he's born, I want to say he, I guess, inherits some kind of genetic disorder or something like that, because it's briefly touched upon in the movie. Again, that's why I hope to read the book, because I hope in the book it's explained at least somewhat more thoroughly. But supposedly because both of his parents were carriers of this particular gene, possibly like some kind of mutation or something, gene mutation. And so Augie, when he was born, he had these, I guess, severe facial deformities. And just in order to get his face to look like a typical kind of face, I guess, or like somewhat typical, you know, he had to undergo all of these surgeries. And still, even with all of that, you know, obviously his face ends up looking, I mean, not like what most people would expect, you know, not like what people are used to seeing when they look at a little boy. And, but I mean, regardless of that, he still ends up and turns out to be a very cool kid, very smart, creative, imaginative. And yeah, obviously, you know, he starts 5th grade and it's his first time going to a public school, and he does encounter trouble. Obviously, he does encounter, you know, he does struggle to fit in, and eventually he figures out, you know, that he should stop feeling down on himself. He should stop wanting to be like everyone else, because ultimately, you know, at the end of the day, he's not like everyone else, doesn't look like everyone else, and that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And I like that point comes across a lot in this movie. Even when they don't necessarily, when, you know, none of the characters don't, like, they're not always, like, saying something referring to that fact that Augie, that he doesn't have to fit in and all that, but just by different actions, I like that, it's a good part of the movie. It's just one of the many important messages I feel that comes across in the story in this movie. And it was just, I mean, of course, I will say maybe there's a couple scenes that I came across as highly unrealistic. But I mean, it's a fictional story. I believe it's a fictional story. But I guess it was more like, having to do with Augie himself, imagining these awesome things happening to him. And I mean, who are we to say that, these awesome things can happen to someone, to a kid, to an adult, to anybody, really. Most of us go about our daily lives, believing that nothing cool can ever happen to us. And when in reality, it's cool stuff, awesome stuff, great stuff can happen to us every single day, within every single moment. It's just a matter of us allowing ourselves to be open to that, and stop giving in to these different negative states of mind and negative states of being. And again, another thing that for me came across in this movie. So many other things too, and it shows you like how complex one person can be, and how, what we see on the surface isn't always what, I mean, anytime, like, if we look at somebody, and they don't even have to be like Augie per se, if we just see somebody who looks like your average person walking down the street, and they may appear to be happy or well off or something like that, but then it could in fact be that, no, that person is currently going through the worst day of their life, or they're struggling to figure out a way just to put food on the table for their family, or something along those lines. Essentially, it's what we see on the surface when we look at somebody, everything we see on the surface, that is not who or what that person is. That's in other words, the looks, the way a person looks, that's a very small percentage of what makes that person unique. What makes that person, a human being. And it's, it's so sad to think that, oftentimes we look at somebody, like we see a very attractive person, and we just assume that that's it. That's who they are. That's all they'll ever be. That's all they're good for. And no, that's not grounded in any reality. That's grounded in superficiality. That's, this movie brought up so much of that for me, and I like that all of that came across. And obviously, I feel like for a lot of people would no doubt have to watch it more than a couple times in order to fully appreciate everything that's in it. And overall, it's a great movie about learning to be more compassionate towards each other. Just keeping an open mind about things, and not closing yourself off from meeting new and interesting people, and possibly making new friends. And, it's just a great movie. I mean, overall, right after I saw it, I posted it all over social media that it made me feel all the feels, all, pretty much almost the entire spectrum of emotions. And I'll even say probably a couple emotions that really I had never felt before. like, like, yeah, it's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. You will not be disappointed. If you end up hating this movie, then, let me know exactly what it was that you hated about it. Because if you end up hating this movie, you gotta, I don't know, you gotta be missing some organs or, I mean, not that I'm saying, if you are missing organs, that sucks, but no, I'm just saying, if you end up hating this movie just because, you don't like the message of of being compassionate towards one another, or just because you don't believe that awesome stuff can happen to people, or if you're a very superficial person, then hey, I can understand. If you're a very superficial person, it is very likely that you might end up hating this movie. But otherwise, you gotta see it. I don't know what else to say about it without spoiling the entire thing. Just watch it. Go out to go rent it, or even buy it. Obviously now after seeing this, I want to buy my own copy of it. I want to buy my own copy of the book too. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Hopefully, right after I edit this and all that in. But yeah, as far as the rating goes, you know what? I'm gonna give it 10 out of 10. That's right, 10 out of 10. I would say at the bare minimum, 9.5, but it's that great a movie, I feel. So 10 out of 10. And that'll do for my review of this movie, Wonder. Again, go see it if you haven't seen it. Everybody should watch it. Everyone. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. As always, until next time, don't forget, keep it real, keep on rocking, and peace.